good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Wendy Harris. I'm your 2022 president of NC Realtors, and I'm particularly excited to be here today. I was going to say with one of my favorite people in the world, Jenny Field, but now I'm looking at the people attending and I have lots of favorite people here. So sorry, Jenny, you're in like a big group of a lot of my favorite people.
I'm loving it. I love to be a part. There's my Tony and Matt. I've got a few favorite people in here too.
I got Kathy and May, and I see Cindy. I mean, there's all kinds of, yeah, I love seeing all the faces. All right, so thank you everyone for being here. We've got a ton of information today. It's just really exciting, our new program, which is our Fair Housing Academy. We've been working on it. We were just talking about this with Rachel and Jenny, that we've been working on this for a year now. So I'm very excited and honored to be the one bringing this forward and getting to host. However, as everyone knows, the person who introduces something is usually just the person who gets to introduce a new thing. There have been a lot of people who have been working on it. And one of those people who I'd like to introduce first is our official Fair Housing Academy host, which is Jenny Field. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Wendy and everybody. Good to see you all.
Woohoo! Jenny, of course, is a practicing realtor. That's very important, practicing realtor. And she was a managing broker most of her career. Of course, we also know that she is an instructor extraordinaire. She has led herself, for us, she's led our At Home with Diversity and CIP courses, and she has won, because Tony and I were there that year, the CIPS Instructor of the Year. Whoop, whoop. That's right. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Jenny, and seeing this through. I have loved that you have been a part of this with us.
Well, I have to say something to you, Wendy, that I said a moment ago to the two of you before everyone else. This has been probably the greatest honor of my career. I've been in real estate 36 years now, and this area has always been a very passionate area for me, specifically personally. And this has been one of the greatest honors I've ever had, to be a part of this program for NC Realtors. And I am so excited about seeing it launched now. And it's just been a remarkable moment in my life and my career, for sure.
That is wonderful. And because I'm always a person who looks forward, I'm already thinking about what else we can rope Jenny into for the next few years to help us with.
You're going to get me to buy a place in North Carolina yet, aren't you, Wendy?
If I guarantee it comes with Cardinals.
Yeah. Not the baseball team.
The baseball team. No, the little red birds. Yep. That's the one caveat. It has to have a house. If the house comes, it has to have Cardinals. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So, Jenny, do you want to do, we're going to go into a video. We're going to have Rachel play a video in a second, but if you can take a few minutes to just explain to us what the Fair Housing Academy is.
Well, I think the first thing I want to say about it is that this is, to me, one of the greatest gifts a state association can possibly give brokers who have responsibility for leading real estate professionals. It was such a creative idea and a brilliant idea, and it really what it is. And having, remember, as Wendy said, managing broker for most of my career, my largest office was 250 agents. And of course, the biggest issue we have is broker supervision and keeping your agents out of trouble. And this area, as we all know, has been an area of tremendous growth. And so the Fair Housing Academy is a series of videos that I had the honor of interviewing these people in these videos, that the folks themselves are kind of foundational people in the area of fair housing on a national level. And what we talked about as it was being built, and what was brought to me and said, can we do this, was creating a manual, creating a document to help the brokers in charge facilitate fair housing education for their agents so that they don't end up in trouble, and having a workbook, if you will, and I'm going to share that with you in a little bit, for the agent population as well, which facilitates that broker in charge in their ability to make sure that their agents don't get into a bad place when it comes to fair housing. And we have everything from a wonderful, amazing historian. I'm going to show you where the videos are, as well as someone who was with HUD for many, many years, is now a vice president at NAR. a woman that I call my sister from another mister because she's just remarkable. She was an activist and now she's a director at NAR, all facilitating and making change with respect to the area of fair housing and the real estate community, the National Association of Realtors. We also have your general counsel for the state association that I had the honor to interview. And we talk about regular legal things, but we also spent time, because it was such an important thing. We also spent time looking at the property management issues. And if you go and just Google property management legal problems, and you'll find fair housing issues over and over and over again. And so we really believe, and again, I'm just somebody that got to do this, that this whole program is going to help protect both the brokers and the agents in the state of North Carolina when it comes to issues of fair housing. It's quite remarkable. I'm just, as I said, I'm tremendously honored to have been a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny. And we are so glad that you jumped in and agreed to participate in it, because it is important. Rachel, if you're ready, could you go ahead and play the promo video for the Academy?
Absolutely. Get started.
Housing discrimination, a hot topic on Long Island today. It follows an investigation that uncovered widespread unequal treatment of people of color by real estate agents.
The homeownership gap between Black and white Americans, in that it is wider today than under the Jim Crow era, when segregation was legal.
He looked at me and he said, "Listen, it's not me, but the owners of this establishment has not at this time decided to sell to Negroes."
State lawmakers are taking a hard look at housing discrimination on Long Island. The scrutiny comes after a Newsday special investigation that found evidence of widespread unequal treatment of potential home buyers on the part of real estate agents.
Here on Long Island, in a 3-year investigation, Newsday tested nearly 100 real estate agents using undercover cameras and people posing as prospective home buyers.
Racial steering and redlining remain alive and well, documented in an explosive Newsday investigation. Emotions poured out of Senate hearings during testimony of what's being called a national embarrassment.
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle say whatever the price tag, minorities need fair housing help now.
We can no longer afford to sit on the sidelines and just allow other things to happen, just allow inertia to take place.
Everywhere we look, in many of our metro areas, we're separated. And so we have to, as realtors, we have to bridge that gap.
It is core to our business practices, but it is a pillar of an equitable society and community. And the only way that we can advance it forward is to be part of that conversation, because for so many years, the real estate industry was part of the problem.
We have to be the uniters and look for the tools that can bring our country together.
Yeah, having the mindset to know that we can make a difference, educate ourselves so that we're prepared to make that difference.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Rachel. Now, I mentioned before that we're rolling this Fair Housing Academy out this year, and we've been working specifically on this academy piece for the last year. However, our work within this field goes back even further. And so I want to walk you through a little bit, because some of us have really, really great ideas. And sometimes, we get a little frustrated when those ideas aren't manifested within what we view as a reasonable amount of time. However, really great ideas actually do take time to implement. especially when you're talking about doing them for a large group or a large area. So back in 2019, Asa Fleming kicked off our formal diversity and inclusion initiative through the Mosaic event. Just wave your hand if you went to Mosaic way back then. Yeah, I was there. It was a fantastic event. And that was really good. It gained, through that, we gained national attention for the thoughtful and meaningful discussions that took place. And we had some incredible speakers there. In 2020, our past president, Maren Brisson-Kuster, also was involved. She continued the meaningful conversation about diversity and inclusion, and she turned a heavy focus to ensure that discussions on fair housing were front and center of all of our training efforts across the state. So we went from talking about it as an event to making sure that we were talking about it at every event. So that was step one. Step two. Then in 2021, past President Kelly Marks, the baton was passed to him from Maren, and he kicked off the development phase of what we now know as this NC Realtors Fair Housing Academy. And of course, then this year we get to present it to you. So we're in our 4th year of what is this going to look like to us and for us. And all of you as broker in charges are this next step of this. And so we've got another push for the next year. And what is this going to evolve into over the next year? So thank you all for being here. Just super excited. And we'll go ahead and get started. Jenny, you ready for a pellet of questions?
I am indeed. And
okay.
I will pull up my website stuff in a moment, but yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, so let's, from your perspective, I've sort of focused a little bit on how long it takes to develop this program from start to finish. But let's talk a little bit about what it really, what you have in it or what you've seen go into it, and then what that means for broker in charges and what they need to do to implement it.
Well, the people that were a part of it, and you saw a couple of them. Nate Johnson is one of the most amazing. It was just so, I wanted to keep talking to him forever, but we had to keep our time down. Has a tremendous understanding of the history of real estate when it comes to fair housing. Brian Green, who was also in the video you just saw, is somebody that, as I said, was with HUD for years and years and years. And I had the chance to chat with him off the grid, if you will, talking about what has happened over the years. But the one I want to mention that I didn't mention before, as you saw, and number one, I love seersucker suits, and that was Bo Patton. Bo Patton was the GAD, Government Affairs Director at LIBOR, the Long Island Board of Realtors. When the Newsday thing hit, he was there as the Government Affairs Director. And needless to say, it was pretty uncomfortable because it was a difficult thing for him, specifically because he was working in Long Island, New York, but he's from the South. And so that conflict and some of the questions I got to ask him were so amazing. But the entire point of this is to have us all understand that this has got to be a priority. I got goosebumps watching that video. And I will share with you as an educator, whenever I teach, almost anything I teach, I bring up that video and I show it, whether the class I'm teaching has anything to do with fair housing or not. I need to do that. And having managed brokered most of my career, as I said, my largest office was 250 agents. I personally have experienced the agent population. I'm going to use I'm from New York, by the way, a cluelessness with respect to their responsibilities in terms of fair housing issues. And so as I look at this whole thing, the process itself is not difficult. The whole goal, as we talked it through, was to have this be something that either associations provide for their local association, their local members, or the association does it, brings in the brokers in charge for their people and implements the program, or the brokers themselves implement the program. It's a series of videos, and there's homework. So there's a manual that I will show you in just a couple minutes. But the videos run anywhere from 15 minutes. The longest is the property management one, which is about 45 minutes. But the goal is show the video, ask the questions of your agent population to see where they are in terms of their own personal knowledge. And when you do that, you have an ability to educate them so that, as it said in that video, you don't become a headline. But the other piece to it is, I think associations have an ability to bring something to the local brokers that they might not even know they have the opportunity to see. My goal here is I don't want anybody that I know to be a headline unless they've gotten an award or they became the president of a state association. I want it to be, you're not in trouble. And I have been in a classroom once, and this is a true story. I shared this with Kelly and Charlie Oppler when we did an interview. And I actually had a student in the classroom, and I was talking about some issues of the fair housing law. And I had a student raise his hand and say, well, when did they make all of this stuff up? Now, you can't make up what I just said. It was true. My teeth nearly fell out, but they didn't, so it was okay. But what's the point? There is this unbelievable lack of knowledge in this area that must change. And I have said consistently with every home with diversity class I teach, at the end of that class, you need to be brave and be the change. You need to be brave and not say something and not ignore something that you know isn't right. And we all have to be that level of brave and make those changes happen. And so I got goosebumps when I watched that video. I absolutely believe, without question, with complete conviction, that this program will indeed help not just the brokers, but the agents in North Carolina be better at their jobs and have a better understanding of the areas they need to improve. And so the way the whole thing comes together, let me just walk you through, if I may, very quickly, and how you find everything. So first and foremost, this is the landing page for the Fair Housing Academy website. The video that you just saw is right here. You can show that as the launch to this training. And as you continue through, here are the series of videos, all of which you can show your agent population. So the goal is, as I said, and I believe, going back to my own life as having been a managing broker, once a month, you're dedicated a staff meeting or whatever meeting you have with your agent population, once a month, it's dedicated to fair housing. And you show the video and you work on the workbook with the students. So there's a student manual, and you can see the manuals, et cetera, are available on the website right here, where you can get the broker in charge manual and the student manual. And then at the end, you can give that student a certificate of completion that they've gone through the program. But when you go to the manuals themselves, here is the broker in charge manual. Here's what the goal is. So, and I want to speak specifically about one issue. If you have not yet seen the Long Island video that was mentioned in the opening video you just saw, there's a link to it in the manual. You must see what happened. And it's absolutely mind-blowing when you see that people so clearly were violating fair housing law. This just happened, guys. This is not something that happened in the 60s or the 70s. This just happened. And when you look at the video from Bo Patton, you have the opportunity to see what New York State was looking at doing. So I don't think that the reaction to what happened in Long Island is anywhere near over. But please know that some of the people that violated fair housing law were past leadership of the association, the LIBOR Association. They were presidents and violated. It was just mind-blowing to me. So you need to prioritize, as the broker in charge, you must prioritize looking at that video first. Get your own mind wrapped around it. Association leaders, get your mind wrapped around it. And then you're going to see, I get goosebumps. I get a little passionate, so forgive me, but Wendy knows that about me, and so does Tony, and so does Matt, and so does Rachel. Then you'll see why this is incredibly, vitally important to do. So as you look at this is the BIC manual, you'll see the name, the company, and the firm name. And then it goes through this entire process of program. So you'll see the suggestions on how to facilitate. Here's the student manual. There's a toolkit. And then here's where you go through. This is where you have the ability. See, here's the bottom line for me. When the brokers go through this program with their agent population, they take an attendance, they take a roster. And at the end of that roster, they can say if there's a problem with someone in their offices, number one, they're going to know they have to do some additional training if some of these questions can't be answered by their agents. But number two, let's say something happens. Let's say somebody from the Department of Real Estate knocks on the door, or somebody else, none of which you want to have. You now have the ability to prove and substantiate that as the broker, you have taken action on making sure your agent population is trained with respect to fair housing law. So you have the realtors in attendance, you can complete it, and then the video. Here's the introduction, and then student questions, and I'm going to show you the student manual in a moment. So it starts with you. Each one of these videos has a separate section, a separate roster that you take, and you walk through the entire process. And then if you go to the student manual, here's what happens. Student name, date they went through the program, and then they're gonna have questions to answer. What does fair housing mean to you? What challenges do you think the real estate community is facing? What methods do you use? Now, let me speak to that very, very, very specifically. One of the things and I spoke to Will Martin, your general counsel, about this, is the process of continuity in terms of processes. And so you treat everybody the same way, no matter what. Now, and that is clearly not what happened. When you look at the video about Long Island, that is not what happened in Long Island, but consistency. And so there are two purposes. The broker is beginning to realize, like, I've got to do some additional training on this, or go through this again with them. And then for the agent, they're going to have an understanding of what they don't know and want to get better. The piece that I look at that's so powerful is this can be carried forward. Let's pretend, because I was a broker, I was a major recruiter, I recruited all the time. You can bring someone onto your team and have them go through this entire program to make sure that they're already ready by the time they launch into your office with respect to fair housing. So I find it to be just remarkable. There are scripts, there's so many things. As I said, I believe it can be easily facilitated at the local associations or facilitated in your own offices with your agent population in such a way as to make sure two purposes. One, you know if you have someone in your office that has a problem, and two, you're going to have better protection for yourself if there ever is. And it's just, we cannot ignore it. And when you see the videos, I got very emotional, but I get emotional anyway, right, Wendy? And that's just me. And there's all kinds of information here for you, but the biggest piece is you're going to give I really think this should be the poster child for the entire country with respect to fair housing training. I think it's unbelievable. And as I said, I think it's an amazing gift that your association provided to your brokers, to the brokerage community. It's amazing. So that's kind of it. I'm very honored to be able to help with some of the questions for the students, because of the fact, if you look at this particular question, this is the one from Lessons from Long Island. So this deals with Bo Patton's responses to what happened by the Newsday investigation. And when you look at, I really felt strongly that one of the questions should be to the agent, talk to me about how you feel after seeing that video. When I've shown the video to the students when I'm teaching, there's dead silence at the end of the video. I don't show the whole version. The whole long one is 40 minutes. I show a shorter version, but there's dead silence because, oh my gosh, how could that even be? It's now. It's not 20 years ago. It's happening now. And it's that you're going to learn the history of fair housing violations, some of the stuff that was done by the National Association of Realtors. All of that is what's going to be happening. So I'm excited about it. It's probably one of the greatest honors I've ever had the opportunity to participate in my career. And so I think that's a good overview. Wendy, did I do okay?
You did great. And you really did. And one of the things that I picked up on going through this, Jenny, was I remember years ago, a long time ago, I had an agent who worked with me. The agent was with my firm for a couple of years. And all of a sudden I sent this agent out for training to this group in another, somewhere, I can't remember, but she was in a room. And I get a call from someone sitting in the classroom who knew me, one of the instructors, and said, one of your agents just stood up. We were talking about systems. And she just said she's so excited to take these systems back to your firm because she said, you don't have any systems in place.
Wow.
And I'm speaking to the broker in charges here that as a broker in charge, sometimes people don't even understand what they're looking at because I saw the systems in place. I'm like, you know what? We have a seller intake form and a buyer intake form to where we make sure we're asking every buyer the same question and every seller the same question. And as you're just flipping through, I'm going, yeah, we've got some of the systems. And then I remembered that and I was like, but do my agents actually realize that's a system? They have to use it. They turn it in with every, with every contract. So I know it's filled out. I know because they don't get paid unless they've done it correctly. But at the same time, they don't even realize that's a system that helps them with this. And and so I was just laughing, going, yeah, it's probably a good time to go through this and refresh that my assumption after 20 years in this business that a system looks like a system, sounds like a system, therefore is a system. Mm-hmm. It's not actually, my agents probably think, oh, this is just a compliance thing for Wendy. It's not a system for anything else, right? And I just love that it gives us as broker in charges that also that reset that says, yeah, you know what, 20 years ago, there was a reason I implemented this form. And it's a bigger reason than just you don't get paid if it's not filled out.
Absolutely. And when we look at the issue of fair housing, there were things I didn't know and I want to share very briefly. When I start at Home with Diversity, I start by saying, and everybody then knows how old I am, which is officially getting closer to being pretty old. My body knows I'm old, but my brain doesn't know. I graduated from high school in the 60s. I remember. In fact, I got very emotional. I went through the implicit bias instructor, train the trainer stuff. And I got very emotional because there are things that are etched in my mind that haven't left since I was a teenager that will never leave my mind, that kind of formulated me when it comes to equality and inclusion and acceptance and issues of diversity and understanding that the need to understand culture and what an exciting thing it can be to just learn about other cultures. And I broke down at one point when I was going through that training because we were asked as instructors, why? Why do you want to do this? Now, I'm a big fan of the question why as a managing broker. And I broke down and I said what I just said. I remember so clearly what happened in the 60s. And it has never left me. It formulated me as a human being, as a woman. And it formulated the way I raised my daughter. And that's the impetus behind this being probably one of the greatest honors of my entire career. But when we take it further, there are things I'm going to guarantee you, your agent population, they don't know. I guarantee you they're not going to know. My mom worked for Levitt & Sons. And when I grew up, she was of a company that was a post-war housing builder. And I did not know until I heard and interviewed one of the people that Levittown, New York, which was the first Levittown, had covenants within their own, their ability to buy that you couldn't buy there unless you were a white guy. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but understand something. My father fought in the war. These guys fought in the war. Everybody came home and only the white people were allowed to buy in Levittown, New York. That's not okay. And that was done legally, as was said in that opening video. So they're going to learn so much. And for me personally, Wendy, it is a thing that I want to have everybody that goes through this program have that same, I can't forget this moment as I had when I was a teenager, that will indeed, I hope, formulate them. And then they become brave. and then they make change happen. I am probably more excited today than I've ever been that change might finally come, but that doesn't mean stuff's not still happening.
Yeah,
And it means the world to me personally.
You're right. And I'm going to mention a couple other examples for you to elaborate on, Jenny, but I think Kelly Marks, past president, 2021, Kelly Marks has just logged on. Kelly, I want to thank you, first of all, for logging on. I also want to thank you for being officially the person who started this Fair Housing Academy formation in their year. And if you can unmute yourself, Kelly, would you like to say just a couple of words?
Sure. I don't know how old Jenny is, and we've certainly been together because it doesn't matter. But I grew up during a similar era, if you will, and where we had a woman who helped raise us and would take us on our days off, my sister and I, downtown, and we had great time. But when we got on the bus, and we were too young to really know about this, we got on the bus and she put us behind the bus driver, the seat immediately behind the bus driver. And we asked her where she was going, and she says, well, I'm going to go to the back of the bus and visit with my friends. And we didn't think anything of it. And we stayed there until she collected us, and we got off the bus, went downtown. And then one of the treats for us was going to Woolworths in downtown Greensboro and sitting at the counter. And she made sure that we ordered, and she told the guy behind the counter, don't let anything happen to my babies. We said, well, Christine, where are you going to go? She said, well, I'm going to go downstairs and eat lunch with my friends. And again, we didn't know anything, and just going up through the ages of things of that nature and desegregation in the school system. It's just interesting when George Wallace, who down in Alabama, he was governor, and of course fought against desegregation. And I remember when he got shot. And that just happened to be one of those situations. And Christine had a friend over. And I mentioned that George Wallace got shot. Her only question, and the other person's question was, is he dead? Not how bad's he hurt, if anybody else got hurt, where was he, or anything. All they wanted to know is if he was dead. So all those impressions made obviously an indelible mark on me. And this, I remember even as far as in junior high, which was at the time 7th grade, and inviting people of all colors over to the house, and people just looked at me and said, what are you doing? And for me, people are people. So I was so excited to have this opportunity, and grateful for Jenny, grateful for you, Wendy, for, again, taking this ball and running with it. This is a very important topic, and not only because it happened in Newsday in Long Island. Those of you who know Sophia Chris, who is head of our North Carolina Housing Opportunity Foundation, who I appointed to be on our exec committee last year because of what she brings to the table, and was president of a company that does nonprofit at helping the city of Greensboro funnel first time education and monies initiative. She recounted a story. My mom's family grew up in Great Neck, New York. Her father tried to see houses in Great Neck, New York. I didn't know this till after she was appointed and we got talking. And real estate agents, multiple, would not show her father anything in Great Neck, New York, intentionally. So that just talk about bringing it home. And so in event, just a great program. And I thank NC Realtors and the resources they're putting behind this. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Here today, and thank you for sharing your story. One of the things that strikes me, and Jenny, you can probably reference this as well, is from people know my past. I moved to the United States. I moved from Europe to Alabama at age 10. So I have an encyclopedia full of examples of why this issue is important to me. There were so many new things that I got to experience in that. But about 10 years ago, I was in another country, and I won't name the country just because that becomes a whole nother conversation. But I was sitting with someone at a restaurant that was on the side of a sidewalk, and the windows were open, and the person I was speaking to leaned over and said, "Did that make you nervous?" And I said, did what make me nervous? And she said, when that dark-skinned man walked by the table. And I went, what? I said, why would you ask me that? And she said, well, you live in the South. And I thought, oh my Lord, to be, judged and quartered right on the fact of that alone shows how this has permeated the world's cultures. This person spoke no English. This person was not watching, American television or American news. And this country also has its own issues. So I was completely just taken back by it, and realized that not only do us as individuals have a lot of work to do, but we also have a perception that we have to work on as well, which is an outward one. It's taken us hundreds of years to get where we are today, and it's going to be a long road to correct the wrongs. But I think we're on the right path. What do you think, Jenny?
I agree with you. And of course, what you brought up is just one of those moments that just tells you about the implicit bias that's everywhere. And I love what you said. We, as I've said multiple times, we must be brave, and we must stop what we see. We have to create a greater awareness, and it broke my heart. Guys, the person's not even from here, and did that? No, one of my favorite T-shirts, and I love wearing T-shirts that say stuff, is a T-shirt that has a chocolate lab, a golden lab, and a black Labrador on the front of the T-shirt, and it says we're all the same, and we are, and that's the part we have to remember. And so I have seen similar things, and my natural inclination is to step up and say, no, what you just did or said isn't okay. That's just me. But when I listened to Kelly's story, and I heard that story from Kelly before. Hi, Kelly, good to see you again, my friend. Think about that. And I think that the way your lack of understanding of what was really happening at some level adds heartbreak in my mind. Because you didn't know why, but now today as an adult, and understand more what was really happening. And I guarantee you, when you hear from these people, from their perspective, and have a greater understanding of the history and the things that were done, and just, it's just enlightening, and at some levels sad. I'm just grateful to all of you, and I really do believe that this is an incredible gift that the state of North Carolina has given to the brokerage community. And it's something, just embrace it and own it, and know. There is an implicit bias training video that Rachel just posted in the chat, but there's also a new program that I'll be delivering to NC Realtors I believe in July. And it's a new program that was just created by NAR specific. It's called Bias Override. And it speaks to the issue of what happens with implicit bias. Why do we have instant reactions to things like that gentleman did, Wendy? Mm-hmm. Why does that happen? What's in our heads that it's unconscious bias? Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to be able to offer that. And I know that those of us are going to be in Washington. Ron Phipps, my good friend, is going to be delivering that to us. And I can't wait to see him do that. But yeah, I just think this is an amazing thing. And I can't wait to hear more from that it's been an insight and a help. And probably at some level, I guarantee you there are going to be some of either you as brokers or your agent population that are going to be absolutely shocked by the things they had no idea about.
And Jenny, we're going to open up for questions. While people think about the questions they may want to ask, and please raise your virtual hand, and I'll call on you. When it comes to implicit bias, I've had conversations with people where they immediately think that is a completely negative thing. And the reality is our biases make us partially who we are as individuals, because you can be biased towards things or biased against things.
Mhm.
The importance in understanding implicit bias from my perspective is that when it's front of mind, you get to understand when it is counterproductive or dangerous or unfair.
Right.
And that's the importance of really digging in. I took all 14 of the Harvard implicit bias tests, and
Yes.
they were eye-opening.
Yes.
It made me say, okay, I believe this is probably true. I'm biased, but it made me ask the question about why and where did it come from?
Well, that's an excellent point, Wendy, because what were the triggers?
Mhm.
What was the trigger that created that bias in you? I know that I have one particular one that's not in any way involving race, but my mom was very morbidly obese woman who died young because of it. And so I have this instant visceral kind of reaction. It's a trigger for me. So the self-awareness piece, understanding implicit bias,
Mhm.
having an ability to create both understanding implicit bias, that and what the trigger is, and then the self-awareness to change it. That's an incredibly important thing to do in our world today.
It is, and I'll share a quick one with you, and then Jason, I'll call on you. One of the ones, and I'm not afraid to share any of my implicit bias tests because they, you have to be willing to admit them to work on them. One of the ones I did showed that I have a bias against, not like against the people, but I am less inclined to view someone with Asian features as being as American as any other facial feature. And I was like, okay, why is that? Well, I've lived all over the world except Asia. I have never been to Asia. I was never in countries with, and as an adult, I've had Asian friends. In college, I had Asian or people with Asian features who were friends. But I just had not been exposed as a child to that. I've never lived in California. I've never lived on the West Coast. And so I was like, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
And just, and I can't blame myself for that. There's no blame or anything to point, but just saying, okay, that's good. Now I need to make sure that I'm not assumptive when I'm speaking to people.
Absolutely. You just spoke to the point of a self-awareness moment, and I'll make you smile. There's a farmer, I live in California, we have farmers markets, I buy fresh everything, but there's one particular man, and he is of Vietnamese heritage, but he was raised in France. And so when I'm there buying my beignets, and they're really good, I'm speaking French with this guy who's actually Vietnamese of heritage.
No.
And like, oh, but I adore him. I can't wait to work on my French with him.
Yeah.
But yeah. Go
Awesome.
ahead, Wendy. I think you said Jason had a question.
Jason had his hand up. Jason, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please share.
So one, thank you all for this morning and the couple of last few years going into this project. I was fortunate enough to be asked to beta test this for the last week. And I want you to know that, seriously, I sat down over the week and I've clicked on every link. I've watched every video. I've read all the content. And I just want the team to know that going through it, we've seen bits of it throughout the last couple of years off and on, but the compilation of all of it in one place is very powerful. However, it's a tool that we just have to use.
Yeah.
The other thing I found that, I'm a member of the Greensboro Association as well as the Burlington Association. So I looked at it from a dichotomy of a small and large association, that it could almost be taught at the association level for smaller firms.
Right.
As clusters.
Yep.
And then the larger firms, of course, could do their own as they see fit because they have the quantities to keep the dialogue. I want everyone to know that this is very well planned, very well thought out. The answers are there through the research and homework and watching. So I'm proud of this project that you all put forward, and I can't wait to roll it out myself. So
that's awesome to hear, Jason. I've got to say something to piggyback on your words. Remember, I've talked about bravery. Kelly knows it's one of my favorite words, but The BICs have to be brave to expect their agent population to be a part of this program. It takes leadership from the brokers to make sure that the people that are working in their offices are going through this program. That takes bravery too. And I guarantee you, there will be challenges, and there'll be challenges with agents that, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't need this training. I'm great. I'm perfect, just as I am. Perfectly wonderful in every way. However, the brokers have to be brave enough to say, here's why I need you to do this. And the brokers have to have the level of understanding of this program as, thank you, Jason, that was awesome. To have you understand the level of the program so that you can say, this is why I expect you to do this with me as your leader, with me as your broker. So we do this together as a team. That's what leadership has to do.
That's right. Jenny, our treasurer for NC Realtors, Lori Knudsen, she uses a term which I love, and I have to give her credit for it. She often says that we are a part of a noble profession.
Yes.
As a realtor. And I believe that to my core. And when done well, we are one of the noblest professions in what we do. And this academy, I love it for my existing team from an onboarding perspective.
Yeah.
To instill that nobility into the core of people that we onboard into this profession. I just love that this adds to that. This says, this is where your mind needs to start. This is where you begin. You have your license. This is the step. This is the next step.
But it's also, it's what you said is perfect, but then also add in, and this is who we are.
We are.
As an organization, as an industry. So this is what you need to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how change is going to happen, guys. That's how change happens.
Yep.
So,
you set the expectation and don't compromise it.
That's right.
Right? Don't compromise it, because as brokers, we get to set our culture and we get to choose who to invite in to that culture and uninvite to that culture. That's who the people in this meeting right now, that's the power we have.
Right.
That is the power we have. Yeah. Wow. Let's see. Do we have a hand raised? Yes, Britt, if you will unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello. I am Britt Jackson. My name is Britt Jackson. I am with the Greensboro Realtors Association as well. And just done some research, and I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran. I have my real estate license in Virginia, where I was stationed at prior to, and then I came home and I had to take advantage of the opportunity again. So I have a question that's probably going to be engulfed with passion. And I just recently read the book, The Color of Law, for the second time from Richard Rothstein. And so, as laws and practices and principles are put into place for real estate in general to be done, my question is, why is something like this, this program that's coming out, why is it not required upon licensing, a continuing education course, or even a strong part of the ethics? So I think there's some courses that are considered ethics, continuing education, and I'm just kind of like, that's not really ethics. But this academy, thank you, Mr. Marks, will be, in my opinion, one of the strongest points of ethics to be covered on, in my opinion, hopefully a required basis. So is that something that they're going to implement, or what is it like?
So we've got a few different things happening in there. So thank you, Britt, because your words are taken very, very well. So we've got some national implications there. We've got some state opportunities there. And then we have some local things as well there. So we've got 3 full tiers where that could certainly be addressed. And again, day one of the Academy beta rollout to our BIC. So that's exactly the kind of feedback that we want. Kelly, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. So I served this year as Vice Chairman of Risk Management for NAR. And we've had already a discussion about this. We broke the United States down into all 50 states into regions, 5 regions of 10 states. And we had those meetings week before last, so we're compiling the data. But this topic is actually coming to our meeting next week that we've putting on the agenda. And that is continuing education and making, if you will, part of the continuation. Some of the states actually have started implementing, say, for example, going from 8 hours to 12 hours, with the other 4 hours, 2 of those hours being, quite honestly, this fair housing, implicit bias, and those types of topics, and making it mandatory every year. So that's one of the topics we're going to be discussing from a risk management standpoint. And I've been a huge fan of expanding our continuing education hours for years and years.
And I should also share with you, it was such a great point, Alexia Smokler has been somewhat on a mission to do a poll across the United States for every state. How much do they have as requirement, Britt, for renewal of licensing that is fair housing related? And Alexia has been doing, she's on that mission. And I'm gonna see her Sunday. I'm very excited to say. And I'm going to ask her how she's doing, because some of it is appalling, Britt. Some of it is absolutely heartbreaking to know that fair housing is not a component of a requirement either for a license or for a renewal of license. But again, remember I said, I really do believe for the first time we're starting to see change. And I think that this academy is going to be a huge impetus towards that, not just in North Carolina. I've been bragging on you guys to my friends at National for a while. I know Kelly has relationships at National, and I would love to see this become the poster child of how things should be done. That's just my personal opinion. We know I'm good at telling you my personal opinion.
No, never. I always have to ask you, force it out of you. Cassie, you've got a question. Please unmute yourself.
Hey, so I am very newly licensed in North Carolina. I've just become a BIC, and at this point it's just me and my company, but I got my firm licensed from Georgia, where I'm not the equivalent of broker in charge, but a lot of aging agents, I'm more of the office manager. My question is, if we do this training with the agents as I recruit North Carolina, will it be counted towards continuing education, and the same for Georgia? Will it cross over, or just be, I mean, of course, just being a great training opportunity, but the certificate at the end is what made me question that.
This is not a continuing education course.
Okay, it's just a personal ethics.
This is an added value item. In my perspective, and I'll speak for Jenny on this, this should be considered as a required thing, but it's not enforceable that way. So this is not a continuing education. You're not going to get credit for that, other than just being a better BIC and a better member of society in general. Thank you. Great question.
Great question.
Yeah, and this is not a Georgia program at all, but you could certainly use it for any of your agents. And Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. So question, how from start to finish, how long does this take? And how would you suggest rolling it out? Would you roll it out in chunks, like for a month, one day a month, for an hour?
If I may speak to that, it's about 4 hours overall of education moments, but it's a series of videos, and within that series of videos, I suggest that, I know when I was a managing broker, I would have staff meetings weekly. I suggest that one of focused on this. I think that my concern, again, remember, we have to convince these people that they need to do this or expect them to do it, while we can't really force them to do it because they're independent contractors, blah, blah, you know what I'm saying? So I would say that once a month, there should be a meeting devoted to this. So it's going to take several periods of time. You might want to do it every week. You can have it be a part of your meeting depending on how long. But the other thing I said earlier is that I believe that the associations should be offering this, like in Cassie's case. I think the local associations should be the entity that brings it to the agent population if the offices are smaller. But I would share with you, I think minimum once a month, and it really depends on getting people to the meeting, getting people in the room and having them say, yeah, I want to do this. But you also saying, I expect you to do this. But again, it's the video lengths. I took a note of what those lengths are. The longest is the property management. Now, I'm going to speak to that very briefly, because even if you don't do property management, you still have to understand the law with respect to fair housing law with respect to property management. Doesn't mean you have to have a property management company. It means that you have to have an understanding of where there is absolute bias and discrimination in property management. That's the longest one. They average about 30 minutes. The introduction and the first one is shorter, about 15 minutes. So you show the video, you go to the manual, they have their workbooks, you collect those back. So you want to know what they're doing. How are they doing in answering these questions? Remember, this is about the BICs also being able to explain or saying, holy cow, I've got somebody who doesn't like Martians, I've got to fix it. And it's that. But my thought, and anybody that has a different one, I think once a month is best. But you know, that's, I know if it were me implementing, I would be doing once a month meetings, and I would have to probably feed them to get them to all come.
One thing that I'll add, Jenny, because I think that everything you said was very important. One of the things that I would add, Cindy, is not everyone may have the same comfort level. And if you don't, I implore you to work on that, because I think an important part of this is not just filling out the forms, turning in the reports and understanding it, but also doing what we've done on this call and saying, and it's okay for us to talk about it. Let's talk about the fact that you don't like Martians, that you think they're all green, because not all Martians are green. Let's explore that a little bit. Why is a Martian green to you? To me, a Martian is, yellow or gray, type thing. And I think making people unafraid to explore those crevices, those areas, or it may be a gorge in some cases, but getting in and exploring them, going down to the bottom of them and coming back up, because you have to go down and come back up. I think that's also an important part of it as well. Jason?
I was just going to say to Cindy that, and brainstorming here in the office about this, it's almost like it could, because there's homework and then there's a little bit of research involved, and you're not ready. Once you watch the video and have the discussion and dialogue, it's not that you're ready to just jump to the next module almost. So it is sort of we even thought for a jolt or a quick impulse, it could be a Tuesday, Thursday thing, maybe a 9 to 11, or either do 2 weeks of it, 9 to 11, Tuesday, Thursday, and then that would give you that 4 to 6 hours to dig in deep. And then it would probably have to be, just as Jenny suggested to me, a monthly reiteration of, okay, this is module 1, this is module 2. We're going to, if you want to join in, you're going to pick up at module 2, or so on and so forth. So.
Yeah. I just want to check with Rachel. Are we okay to continue speaking? I know we're at our hour, but we've got people who still have questions. So
I believe so, yes. And for anyone who may have another commitment, we are recording, and we'll make sure to send a copy of the full recording to everyone who is registered today if you do have to hop off the call. Great.
Thank you, Rachel. And Jason, one of the things you just mentioned that made my brain think, doing that Tuesday, Thursday, is, it gives you an opportunity between these modules also to say to your agents, you can include an interactive project with this as well that says, we've done this module, now go out and observe the world and bring back a couple of examples of you witnessing, hearing. Now go pay attention with this knowledge that you have.
It's almost like you need to digest it too. for it to kind
Especially
of,
some of it is very powerful stuff, as I mentioned, and some that the digestion of it, the sometimes it's, I mean, gonna hit you.
That's right. That's right. And remember, some's overt and some's very subtle. Tony, you've got your hand up, please.
I just wanted to say I'm really excited about this program, and I'm just so thankful for the years of working on this and getting it finally ready to roll out. I think it's interesting that this month, coming into Fair Housing Month, I know I personally have had some conversations with other BICs for different offices in my area, and we're all, congratulate each other on having a great office and we're prideful that we feel like that our office very much understands fair housing and diversity and D&I. So when it comes to having that thought from a BIC perspective, it's not always the case. And so you can't assume that even though you feel like you have a diverse or a office that understands these concepts, it's there. And so having this program is actually going to take it to another level. We just have to, as BICs, take the time, schedule it, and do it. I liked your concept, Jenny, when you said be brave and be the change. It starts with us as BICs. And if we don't start doing the messaging, then it won't be done. So because our members in our offices listen to us, and it's important for us to be challenging with these concepts and with these conversations to do the education. So thank you to everybody who's done the programming for this. I see a lot of staff members on today. I know there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that's been done over the past couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony. Kathy?
As a property manager of, I've been saying 30 years so long now, it might be 35 for all I know, but as a property manager, I am thrilled to have a resource that I can use for training of our staff. The majority of our staff are unlicensed in the property management field, our leasing agent, our maintenance coordinator. So I usually send them for fair housing training with Grace Hill, or I think it's known as Visto now. So I won't let a new staff member, and I have two here this week, they are not allowed to answer the phone until they go through fair housing training. So I've always had to rely on other resources, and I'm just thrilled to have a NC Realtors resource that I can share with our staff. So thank you very much to all who put this together. It is very meaningful, and I know it will be put to use right away. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much, Kathy. All right. Do we have anyone else who'd like to comment or ask questions? I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Jenny, would you like to have any final comments?
I think the only thing I would close with is that, and I've said it a lot, I'm probably going to keep saying it because I've said it to other people. I sincerely hope from the core of my being that the brokers in your state understand how dedicated leadership is at NC Realtors to bring this to them at no cost, oh, by the way, and make sure that their NC Realtors is doing what it needs to do to help support the BICs in the state. And I'm just in awe of that. I truly am. And but more importantly, for me personally, on a very personal level, this has been an absolute game changer for me in my personal life. I've talked about it so much to so many people. I sincerely hope that others take notice of what you've done and said, this is how we can be the change in this area of society, because it is just absolutely remarkable and a true, absolute, unequivocal honor for me to have had the opportunity to be a part of this and to be able to contribute to something that's so incredibly important to me personally. So thank you. It's amazing. You guys have done an amazing job, and it's exciting for me to see it finally launch.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jenny. And, a little, cup 90% full. This is one of those programs that I think we all hope one day we don't have to talk about fair housing, because it's just fair. deal.
Like we could say back in the day, this happened, but it doesn't happen anymore. Wouldn't that be lovely?
It would be lovely.
I'm not sure I'm going to live that long, but it'll be okay.
You know, while we're here, we will do our part though to move it forward. So
Yeah.
thank you, Jenny, for being here. Thank you for all of your work on this. I miss you. I love you.
I love you madly. I'm going to see you Sunday. I'm going to see a few of you on Sunday.
That's right.
Kelly, thank you again for all your hard work. It's been great to get to know you and so fun to be with you guys in Greensboro. And Matt, good to see you again virtually.
Yep.
And I look forward to hugs when I see you personally again. So
that's right. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you, everyone.
You've done a
who
great
attended.
job. Thank you, Rach.
Great job, Jenny. Great job, Wendy. Absolutely terrific.
Wendy, always good to see you. Thank you for all your hard work on this as well. You guys have just done amazing things.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.